I was 17, and my teacher was my biggest secret. Not a crush, not some fleeting teenage fantasy, but a weight in my chest that grew heavier every time she walked into the classroom. Her voice, soft but commanding, had this way of cutting through the noise of my thoughts. The way she'd linger on a poem, reading each line like she was unraveling my soul, it felt dangerous. I knew it then, and I know it now, years later, with the clarity of hindsight. But knowing didn't stop me from falling deeper, from scribbling her name in the margins of my notebook when no one was looking, from memorizing the way her eyes crinkled when she laughed, like she was sharing a secret with the world. I hid it all. From her, from my friends, from myself. Because what do you do when the person you love is someone you're not supposed to want? What happens when that love follows you, like a shadow you can't shake, long after you've left those fluorescent-lit hallways behind? I'm 25 now, living in a different city, with a different life, but some nights, I still wake up, her face flashing in my mind, her voice echoing in my ears. I wonder if I'll ever be free of her. This is the story of how I loved my teacher in secret and how it's haunted me ever since. Let me take you back to 2017, my senior year, in a small town just outside Seattle where the rain never stopped, and neither did the rumors. My name's Ethan, not that it matters much now, but saying it grounds me, like pinning a moment to a map. I was the quiet kid, the one who faded into the back of the room, doodling in notebooks, avoiding eye contact with the jocks and the popular girls who ruled the halls. High school was a blur of hormones and hierarchy, a place where you either fit in or you didn't. I didn't. I didn't care about prom or parties or who was dating who. What I cared about was words, poetry, stories, the way they could make you feel seen, like someone out there understood the chaos in your head. And then there was Ms. Harper. She was my English teacher, 32, with this quiet intensity that made every lesson feel like a confession. She wasn't like the other teachers, burned out or just going through the motions. She cared. You could see it in the way she'd pause after reading a line from Dickinson or Plath, letting the words hang in the air like they mattered, like they could change you if you let them. I noticed her on the first day of class. She walked in wearing this navy blazer, her dark hair pulled back loosely, strands slipping free like they had a mind of their own. When she smiled at the room, it felt like she was smiling at me. Stupid, right? But that's how it starts, those little moments you overthink until they become something bigger, something you can't control. By October, I was hooked. I'd stay after class to ask about books, pretending I cared about symbolism and The Great Gatsby or the themes in Jane Eyre when really, I just wanted to hear her talk. She'd lean against her desk, her voice warm, her eyes sharp, and I'd feel this pull like I was falling and flying at the same time. It wasn't just her looks, though she was beautiful in that effortless way some people are, with high cheekbones and a smile that felt like a reward. It was how she made me feel, like I wasn't invisible, like my thoughts mattered, like I was more than just another kid in a desk. But here's the thing, I knew it was wrong. She was my teacher. She was married, too. I'd seen the ring on her finger, a thin gold band that caught the light when she wrote on the chalkboard, each loop of her handwriting like a signature I wanted to memorize. I wasn't stupid. I knew the rules, the boundaries, the consequences. A student and a teacher? That was a line you didn't cross, not in a small town where gossip spread faster than wildfire. So I buried it. I told myself it was just admiration, respect, nothing more. But every time she called on me in class, my heart would race. Every time she handed back a paper with thoughtful work, Ethan, scrawled in her neat handwriting, I'd hold on to it like a treasure. I started living for those moments, replaying them at night, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering what it would be like to tell her. To say the words I'd never dare speak. To say, Ms. Harper, you're all I think about. But I didn't. I couldn't. Instead, I let the feelings fester, growing heavier with every passing day. By spring, it was worse. I wasn't just crushing, I was obsessed. I'd find excuses to pass by her classroom during lunch, hoping to catch a glimpse of her grading papers or talking to another student. I'd linger in the hallway, pretending to tie my shoe, just to hear her voice through the door. I hated myself for it, but I couldn't stop. It was like she'd taken up residence in my head, and every thought circled back to her. I started writing poems, not for class, but for me. They were messy, raw, full of things I'd never show anyone. Lines about her hands, delicate but sure, the way they moved when she talked. Lines about her laugh, soft but bright, like a song you can't forget. Lines about the way she'd tuck a strand of hair behind her ear, a gesture so small but so devastating. I'd write them late at night, my pen shaking, then stuff them in a shoebox under my bed, terrified someone would find them. My mom, my sister, anyone. Those poems were proof of something I couldn't admit, not even to myself. The forbidden part, the part that kept me up at night, wasn't just the age gap or her being my teacher. It was the guilt. I knew she didn't feel the same. She was kind to everyone, not just me. She'd smile at other students, joke with them, write encouraging notes on their papers too. But my brain twisted every interaction into something more, something it wasn't. I'd imagine scenarios, her leaving her husband, us running away together, ridiculous things that made no sense even as I thought them. I'd picture us in some far-off city, talking about books over coffee, like we were equals, like the world wouldn't judge us. And then I'd snap out of it, hating myself for even thinking those things. I wasn't that guy. I wasn't the creep who crossed lines. But the lines were blurring, and I was scared of what I might do if I let myself get too close. One day, I almost broke. It was April, after school, and I'd stayed late to help her organize books for a class project. We were alone in the classroom, the rain tapping against the windows, a soft rhythm that made the silence between us feel heavier. She was talking about her college days, how she'd wanted to be a writer before teaching, how she'd spent nights scribbling stories in a dorm room. Her voice was so open, so unguarded, and I felt this ache, this need to say something real. I don't know what came over me, but the words slipped out before I could stop them. You're the kind of person I'd write about. It hung in the air, raw and reckless. She froze, just for a second, her eyes meeting mine. Then she laughed, a little too quickly, and said, "That's sweet, Ethan." But her voice was different, careful, like she'd sensed something dangerous. My face burned. I wanted to disappear, to take it back, to erase the moment. I mumbled something about needing to go and practically ran out, my sneakers squeaking on the linoleum. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept replaying it, wondering if she knew, if I'd ruined everything. Had she heard the truth in my voice? Had I crossed a line I couldn't uncross? The rest of the year was torture. I avoided her gaze in class, stopped staying after. I'd sit in the back, head down, pretending to read, while her voice washed over me like a tide I couldn't escape. But the feelings didn't go away. If anything, they got worse. I'd see her in the hallways, talking to other teachers, her laugh carrying through the air, and it was like a knife in my chest. I started imagining her life outside school, her husband, her home, things I had no right to think about. What did he look like? Was he kind to her? Did she love him? I felt like a thief, stealing pieces of her in my mind, building a version of her that didn't exist. And the worst part? I couldn't tell anyone. Not my best friend, Jake, who'd laugh it off or call me crazy. Not my mom, who'd worry I was losing it. No one. It was my secret, and it was eating me alive, a weight I carried alone. Graduation came and went, a rainy June day filled with speeches and hugs I didn't feel. I thought leaving high school would fix it, like distance would make her fade. I was wrong. I went to college in Oregon, a small liberal arts school nestled in the mountains, and I chose literature as my major because of her, because she'd made words feel alive. But every time I read a love poem, Browning, Neruda, anyone, it was her face I saw. Every time I wrote an essay, I'd hear her voice in my head, saying, "Thoughtful work, Ethan." I'd walk through campus, see someone with dark hair in a coffee shop, and my heart would stop, thinking it was her. I dated other people, tried to move on, but it was like comparing shadows to sunlight. No one measured up. I'd sit across from a girl at dinner, listening to her talk about her major or her plans, and all I could think was, she's not Miss Harper. It wasn't fair to them, and it wasn't fair to me, but I couldn't stop. By my junior year of college, I was a mess. I'd stopped writing poetry, stopped caring about much of anything. The guilt had turned into something else, regret, maybe, or shame. I kept wondering what would have happened if I'd told her. Not some dramatic, movie-style confession, but something honest, quiet. Miss Harper, you changed me. You made me want to be better. Would she have hated me? Reported me? Or would she have understood, even just a little? The not knowing was worse than anything. I started looking her up online, which was a mistake. She was still teaching, still married, still posting about books and her garden on social media. I'd scroll through her posts, feeling like a stalker, hating myself but unable to stop. There was one photo, a candid shot of her at a school event, laughing with another teacher, and I stared at it for too long, wondering if she was happy, if her life was everything she'd wanted. Then, in my last semester, I went back to my hometown for a friend's wedding. I don't know why I did it, but I drove by the high school. It was a Saturday, the parking lot empty except for one car, hers. My hands were shaking as I parked. I told myself I just wanted to see her, to say hi, to prove I was over it. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. I walked into the school, the hallways eerily quiet, the smell of chalk and old books bringing it all back. She was in her classroom, grading papers, just like I'd imagined 1,000 times. She looked up, surprised, and smiled. "Ethan! It's been so long." Her voice was the same, warm and steady, and it broke something in me. I felt 17 again, small and exposed. We talked for maybe 10 minutes about college, my major, her classes. It was normal, safe, like catching up with an old friend. But I could feel the words I wanted to say burning in my throat. I wanted to tell her everything, how she'd shaped me, how I'd loved her, how I still did. I wanted to say, you were my world, and I didn't know how to let you go. But I didn't. I couldn't. The ring was still on her finger, glinting in the light. I said goodbye, walked out, and sat in my car for an hour, staring at the rain, feeling like I'd left a piece of myself behind. That was the last time I saw her. Now, I'm 25, living in Portland, working a job I don't love, writing stories I don't share. I'm trying to build a life, to be someone I'm proud of, but she's still there, in the quiet moments, in the spaces between my thoughts. I don't know if it was love or obsession or something in between. All I know is it changed me. I'm not the kid who hid poems in a shoebox anymore, but I'm not free of her either. Some loves, maybe the forbidden ones, don't let you go. They just sit there, heavy, like a book you can't finish reading, its pages worn from being turned over and over in your mind. Here's the thing I didn't expect. Last month, I got an email from her. Out of nowhere. She'd found one of my old essays in a box of papers, something I'd written about Wuthering Heights, about love that destroys you. She said it reminded her of me, of how I'd always had a way with words. She wrote, "You always had a way with words, Ethan. Keep writing." I stared at that email for hours, my heart racing like I was back in her classroom. Did she know? Had she ever known? The way she'd paused that day in April, the careful edge in her voice, had she seen it in me, the truth I tried so hard to hide? I haven't written back. I don't know if I will. I don't know if I can. But that email, it's proof she's still out there, still real, still holding a piece of me I'll never get back. Have you ever loved someone you couldn't have? Someone who changed you, even if they never knew? Tell me your story in the comments, I read every one. And if this hit you in the feels, hit that subscribe button. There's more where this came from. I promise you, the heart doesn't forget, and neither do I.